Hello and welcome back, everyone, to Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, hard mode, fresh on Rocket Rabbit Commentaries. And in this episode, we have successfully slain Bathin on hard mode. Alright, I promised that I was going to bitch and moan about the Bathin fight on hard mode. And that is what we are going to be opening this part with. Also, we're going to be showing off how to get up over to here. Haha! Enemy stat.
Bitch and moan.
Alright, so, the reason why I want to complain about the Bathin fight is not actually because of anything that's super obvious from what we got to see from the last part, but rather, more or less, the reflective ray attack that Bathin uses during hard mode does effectively 2 entire laps across the entire arena, and figuring out the safe zones for that are damn near impossible, especially when you don't have access to one of the more famous Igavania shards, the midair hover. And without access to midair hover, it's very difficult. It's very difficult to figure out where a safe zone for the reflector ray attack would actually be. The thing is, with directed shield, I am supposed to have an immediate defensive answer for it, but directed shield eats out the slot that I actually use for Inferno Breath, and because of that, I don't actually use directed shield for a majority of the game, because I like having Inferno Breath on as my directional shard.
Let's see. Do I want to have an easy time going through Pewter City Gym by starting with a Squirtle, or do I want a challenge and start with Charmander?
The correct answer is neither of those. I'm starting with Bulbasaur. Every time.
But Bulbasaur doesn't learn... Bulbasaur doesn't learn Vine Whip until it's too late, though.
Says who?
Well, when does he learn Vine Whip?
I think it's like level 9.
Oh, shit. Yeah, Bulbasaur all day, then.
Yeah. Like, the big thing that people want to say about Generation 1 is that the best starter is between Squirtle, who's the most well-rounded, and Charmander, who's the coolest. And the correct answer is no, neither of those. Bulbasaur all day, all fucking day. Bulbasaur takes down Kanto so much fucking easier than either Squirtle or either Blastoise or Charizard do.
Yep. He has an edge in Pewter City, Cerulean Gym, Viridian City. So already out the gate, three of the 8 Kanto gyms are easily taken down with a Grass-type Pokemon.
Literally, the only 2 campaign fights that are bosses that Bulbasaur has problems with are Lorelei, Sabrina, and Blaine, and by the time you get to those, you're supposed to already have dedicated answers for those types. Anyway, I mean, you won't have a dedicated type answer for Sabrina because they don't exist, but you're supposed to have them.
Yeah, by the time you get to Vermilion City on this massive digression from Bloodstained, you have access to a much wider pool of supporting Pokemon than you would if you were stuck in Pewter City and the only things you could fucking get were Pidgeys and Rattatas.
Although, to be perfectly honest, Rattata will actually be able to take down most of Cerulean on its own.
Yeah.
Don't sleep on Raticate, dude. Raticate is actually a viable early game mod.
Yeah, because Raticate has Super Fang. And no
Not
other
Super
Pokemon
Fang, Hyper Fang.
Well, Super Fang is cool.
Super Fang is very cool. Anyway, getting back to Bloodstained, we showed off the hidden room, the hidden rooms in the underground sorcery lab, specifically because they have recipes that are relatively important for later on. Specifically, the Damascus equipment recipe book is very important for completing Abigail's quest line. I'm not actually going to be finishing Abigail's questline for the record, but it's very important that we get that book anyway. So we did the assassin one while we were on Glutton Train. Thank you, Lindsay. Cut Person's ring allows us to steal gold from monsters. That's it. It's kind of cool that it does that, but it's also not at all relevant, because the gold that drops from monsters using the Cut Purse's ring is directly affected by how high your luck stat is. And the Cut Purse ring isn't actually any better than, it's actually significantly worse than just farming candles. So, yeah. As cool as the Cutpurse Ring is in concept, it's just never actually fucking viable. Anyway.
Luck normally is not an attribute you develop, whether it's Elder Scrolls or Bloodstain.
Poor Cloud. So, how long did it take you to get your first double magic item in Skyrim?
What, by double magic you mean like
a magic item that spawned in the wild with 2 or more enchantments on it?
I mean, you got to get pretty late game before you start seeing those regularly.
No, you do not, Mr. Cloud. Okay, this is a thing that is extremely important to know for a majority of the Igavanias if you decide to go play them. Luck is the single most important stat for casual play in Igavanias of any of the stats that you have access to. It is more important than intelligence, it's more important than strength, and it's certainly more important than MP. And this is because the enemy drops in Igavania games specifically are always going to be significantly more powerful than what you have the ability to get on using your own methods. Yes! So, when you're playing any of the Iga games, Bloodstained specifically, it is very, very important to have two different sets of equipment available for what you're doing. If you're traveling the overworld, going to someplace, you need a luck focus set in order to capitalize on the fact that enemy drops are just so much significantly better than whatever that is you're currently running. But you also need a high value boss slaying set in order to deal with the more difficult encounters that come across. You brought up the Elder Scrolls because, believe it or not, the Elder Scrolls dungeons all have this exact same thing going on to them in the background. When you enter an Elder Scrolls dungeon, all the chests and containers in it have a specific loot table that they can pull from, and that loot table is in fact affected by your luck stat.
I should mention on your note on Elder Scrolls game in general that Skyrim does not have a luck attribute, but you can get. Because in Skyrim, what it did different than Oblivion, in Oblivion you had an independent luck stat, but that luck stat was not attached to any skills, which means that you could only ever increase it by 1 increment at a time, which is a painstakingly slow process to max out, and really not recommended if you're just developing a new character, because it means that you're not developing your other attributes.
There wasn't fortify luck in Oblivion?
I mean, yeah, you can fortify luck with enchantments, rings, or even some restoration spells. If you're a master of restoration, you can get temporary fortified luck, which I guess no, that's right. There was no critical hit system in Oblivion, but it would affect, I guess, going into dungeons and then having the dungeon procedurally generate the contents of the loot. In Skyrim, when you leveled up, it did 2 things. You get to increase your choice of health, magicka, or stamina, and in addition to those, you could get an unlocked skill in the skill trees, because they started using skill trees in Skyrim. Well, more like skill constellations.
Skill constellations. I've never been a fan of this constellation system. I understand that it makes it so that you have the ability to become stupidly overpowered relatively early on if you know what the hell you're doing with it. But it always ends up just being a massive grind that isn't usually worth the player's time unless they're specifically going for exactly one particular goal.
So in Skyrim, you could improve your luck by using the skill constellation system. I'm pretty sure one of the perks you can get is you get better luck on the loot.
So, now that we're back on Bloodstained, look at all the shit that they decided to throw on. This room is drastically changed when it comes to hard mode, specifically because not only are we dealing with these maledictions instead of Dollar Hammer heads, but they have additional spawn ranges that the Dull Hammerheads most certainly did not classically, or rather in normal mode. And I'm gonna end up bringing this up a lot, and I've already brought it up a bunch. But the big problem that the hard mode ends up having is enemy density. Like, look, even in this room, they just decided to put additional Dull Hammerheads in this room. There's no reason for Dull Hammerheads to be here, as at this point, if you can get to this point in the castle, you already have the ability to one-shot them. So they just end up being an additional hazard that you have to juggle with.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and you just got hit by
a bunch of shit all in a row.
4. Yeah, this is a rather enemy-dense environment. I agree.
Yeah, and it's not supposed to be. These hallways are not designed to be this enemy-dense. These hallways are meant to have relative. These hallways are very specifically meant to have very few enemies. That way, not necessarily that you can plow through them, but so that you can deal with the enemies at your own pace. Because a landslide at this point in the game is still going to hit you really hard. You notice I'm still taking just under 100 points of damage anytime I get hit.
Yeah, well, wax on, wax off. You just save the game, and boom, you got a full health bar again.
Okay, but now we're going into one of the best boss fights in the entire game. Now, a boss that we have fought in a majority of our playthroughs. Welcome back, Miss Bloodless.
I need more blood.
Why are you wearing stockings in the bathtub?
Bloodstained.
No, she's not actually wearing stockings. I mean, I know it looks like she's wearing stockings, but no, she's not wearing stockings.
I see that smirk there. She's having fun. I love it. I love it when I fight characters who are having fun.
Yeah. Now, Bloodless does have slightly faster attacks, but only slightly faster. And she doesn't actually have any new attacks either. So this way ends up the big thing that you have to worry about here is the fact that Bloodless actually does slightly more damage, and that damage aura is new, and that will actually inflict a relatively high amount of damage if you get hit by the aura. But to be perfectly honest, Bloodless is almost completely unchanged between normal and hard. Yeah, her attacks are slightly faster, but not faster enough to that you end up really noticing it. And the only other big thing about her is the damage output and the damage aura while she's doing Cyclone. The thing is, damage aura while she's doing Cyclone doesn't extend far enough to actually impede most melee builds. And her additional attack speed, she already was relatively fast. So,
Bloodsteel.
Yeah.
Stop it. Stop it.
And she is disabled for slightly less time while under Bloodsteel, but...
So, I have a question, and I'm going to preface this question with an analogy. When I fought Lady Maria in Bloodborne DLC, it took me a while to get used to the idea that she's using a weapon that the hunter also has access to, albeit you can only access this weapon after you kill Lady Maria. So I have to ask, is it easy? Do you find it easier to fight Bloodless after you've played as her in her own campaign?
No.
Okay, then. Because I found it easier to fight Lady Maria when I understood her fighting style by playing with the weapon she was using, which is the Rakuyo.
Well, here's the thing. I understand Bloodless slightly better after going through the game so many additional times. But oh look, my Dull Hammerhead actually did enough damage to finish her off. Haha. But that wasn't. It wasn't because of the time spent playing her that made me good against Bloodless. It was actually a lot of additional practice that I'm not happy to say that I've done on accident.
Bloodsteel! Gotta do it with more elegance, darling.
Mind you, you'll notice that I don't actually use Bloodsteel as my preferred Conjure Shard for a majority of the game. It is an interesting emergency heal, but because you have to upgrade it so high in order for it to actually be worthwhile, I don't use it. I really don't. Specifically
nice
because its upgrade materials, I believe, are the Monster Blood, which drops off of Simians, and Simians don't really have a good, farming room. But in the next episode, since we have officially defeated Bloodless, we can start doing more exploration and finally make it over to the underground waterway.
Yay.
Be safe, everybody. Save room.
Always.
Don't make me cry.
Safe.